Bone tissue can be arranged in a couple of different formations. So one formation is compact bone. Another formation is spongy bone, which we'll talk about towards the end of this video. So compact bone is very dense and strong, and it's probably the bone that you are most familiar with seeing. So if you look at the outside of a chicken bone, or if you've ever seen a skeleton, typically the outside part of the bone is made of contact bone. And the tissue in compact bone is made up of structural units called osteons. So you can see here, so this is a cross-section of a bone looking through a microscope. And this circular structure right here is one osteon. You can see over here, this would be a second osteon that's kind of sticking off of the picture. There's a third one up here, another one over here, and another one over here. So there's multiple osteons that make up the compact bone tissue. And each osteon is, it has several different features associated with it, which we're going to talk about on the next couple slides. So one feature is called the central canal. And the central canal, even though here it looks kind of dark, this is actually a hole or a space that runs along the length of the osteon. So you can think of the osteon as like a cylinder, and the central canal is a hole that goes all the way down the middle of the cylinder. The main function of this hole is just a passageway for blood vessels and nerves to get into the bone tissue, so get deeper into the bone tissue. Now, not shown on this picture here, but perforating canals connect the central canal of one osteon to the central canal of another osteon. And so we can't see it here, but there would be a perforating canal that would be connecting the two of these in this direction. And that just allows the nerves and the blood vessels to branch and reach all different parts of the bone. Lamellae are concentric rings of hardened extracellular matrix that surround the central canal. So once again, central canal is this hole right here. And then these rings of extracellular matrix that radiate out from it are the lamellae. So remember the tan part here is the extracellular matrix. And so this is one ring, this is the second ring, and a third ring. Lacunae, we talked about these a little bit when we talked about osteoblasts, but remember osteocytes. Osteocytes are cells that are separated from each other by extracellular matrix. But each cell is located in its own little space called a lacuna. So lacunae is plural, so meaning multiple lacunas, and singular is just lacuna. And then the canaliculi are the small canals that connect the lacuna with one osteocyte to a lacuna with another osteocyte. And the purpose of the canaliculi is that the osteocytes can have these cellular extensions that stick out of the lacuna, and it can reach out and come in contact through the canaliculi. It can reach out and come in contact with another osteocyte. So it allows this osteocyte to communicate with this osteocyte so that they can work together to make changes to the structure of the bone. Spongy bone is another type of bone, and you typically won't see spongy bone unless you break a bone and look at the inside of it. It's also known as cancellous bone, and the name spongy just refers to the fact that there are kind of solid bone tissue, these spikes, which we call trabeculae, and then there's spaces of just kind of openings in between those osseous tissue trabeculae. Now these spaces are where we find red bone marrow. And so these spaces are where blood cell production occurs because blood cells are produced from the tissue in the red bone marrow. So you can see here, you can see the spongy bone here. It's not spongy in the sense that it's not squishy like a sponge. It just has holes in it, kind of like Swiss cheese, but it's still a nice hard. At least the tissue part has a nice hard structure to it. Spongy bone is lighter than compact bone, and so it does help to lighten up the bones a little bit while still providing some strength, so our bones don't get too weak.